Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Chicago, Illinois, it's time for Chicago Business Radio. Brought to you by FirmSpace, your private sanctuary for productivity and growth. To learn more, go to firmspace.com. Now, here's your host.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chicago Business Radio. I'm your host, Max Cantor, and before we get started, as always, today's show is sponsored by FirmSpace. Big thanks to FirmSpace, because without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. And on today's show, we have a good one for you today. We have someone who manages several master's programs at Northwestern University, including the MA in Writing and the MFA in Prose and Poetry. She also directs the Northwestern University Summer Writers Conference and Chicago's Printers Row Literary Festival. So please welcome to the show, Amy Danzer. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks for having me, Max. So nice to be here. I'm
excited to talk to you about everything that you're doing. So let's jump right in. Tell me a little bit about the Printers Row Lit Fest.
Gosh, it's such a joy to be a part of it. This is its 38th year. It's one of the oldest literary festivals in the country and definitely the largest lit event in the Midwest. It's going to be Saturday, September 9 and Sunday, September 10, all day from 10 in the morning till 6 p.m. We'll have programming. So my job, I'm the director of programming for the Lit Fest. So I deal specifically with authors and poets and that sort of thing. So we've got over 200 presenters who are participating in the programming, 75 plus programs, and just something for everyone. We've got poets, we've got children's programming, we've got nonfiction writers. We also have exhibitors. So we take over 5 blocks in the Printers Row neighborhood, which used to be the printing hub of the publishing hub of the Midwest. And so we've got streets just lined with exhibitors. We've got over 100 exhibitors this year. So you can just kind of walk from, tent to tent and do a little book shopping. But it's not just book sales. There are literary organizations and publishing houses, MFA programs that are there to kind of talk with people about their programs. So that's a little bit about the the program or the literary festival.
So talking numbers wise, about how many authors and poets do you expect, and how many visitors are you guys expecting?
Yeah, on the programming side, I think we've got 220 or 230 at this point.
Wow.
On the exhibiting side, so there are tons of authors that also are exhibiting. I would say, there are 118, but at each tent, sometimes, authors, there'll be a couple or few different authors in one tent. So, I don't know, 500, maybe more than that. So it's really a great opportunity to talk with writers and, get your book signed by some of your favorite authors, listen to them talk about, read from their new books, get autographs.
Totally. And with numbers that size, even if you don't know a single author going to this festival, odds are you find something that you enjoy or interested in.
I think so, and I think, sometimes people are I want to read more. I just don't even know where to start. I go to, the bookstore and there are just so many books and people can get overwhelmed. And the Lit Fest is a really nice way to just kind of sample, just what's new and out there, and just to kind of hear from a variety of authors. We have just such incredible diversity. It's just definitely something for everyone. Now, we also have children's programming. For the little people in everyone's lives. So we're going to have a storybook parade. Costumes are optional, way more fun, but totally optional. And the Chicago Public Library, which is celebrating its 150th anniversary, their great horned owl mascot is going to be leading the parade, along with Miss Friendship Ambassador with the Chinatown Chamber of Commerce. So that's going to be fun. And then it's going to kind of end. It's going to kind of circle back to center stage, where we're going to then have a little bubbles and bookmarks dance party, and there's going to be storytelling. On Sunday, we're going to have a drag story hour with Mrs. Yuka. That's going to be awesome. And then DJ Corkin is going to do like a draw along, like a reading and a draw along. So just lots of really fun stuff for the kids.
Totally. There's activities for everybody, no matter your age.
Correct.
So
yes.
You mentioned this festival has been going on for almost now 4 decades. Why do you think this festival resonates with so many people? What has kept it going?
Man, I feel like there are a lot of like angels of the festival, like just guardians, I should say, guardian angels of the festival that have just really just help keep it going, whether by helping to fund it, helping to organize it, helping participate in it. There are just so many people that are involved and have such a fond memories of the, and experiences with the festival. The festival is free and open to the public. And so it's very inclusive. It's very accessible. And I think because of that, it just has such a great reach, and just a lot of people are invested, and it does so much for the community, I think. So it inspires reading and connections. As much as there's like fantastic programming going on and shopping to be done, there's also a lot of networking to do at the festival. If you're a publisher, a bookseller, or an aspiring writer or an experienced writer, it's just a great networking opportunity to just meet, other people in that same, in those same fields, and just to kind of pick their brains and just establish relationships or, reunite at the festival. I feel like a lot of people only see each other from fest to fest. So.
You talked a lot about just then networking and, the community aspect of this festival. And that's what it sounds like. It's not just a festival where you go buy a book and leave. There's people making connections, talking to each other. And to do that, I imagine you get support from the city to help you put on this festival. So can you talk about the kind of support that you're getting from the city of Chicago to help you put this on?
Yeah, I'm a little bit removed from like budget and that sort of thing, but I do know that DCASE helped make this year's festival possible. Betty and Joseph Feinberg Foundation also helped make it possible. And again, there are just so many volunteers that help make everything happen. So we're really fortunate for everybody who cares about the festival and wants it to be a success.
Now, can you talk about some of the author speakers you might be having? Anyone that you are highlighting or showcasing at this year's fest?
Yeah, our opening presenters are 2023 Pulitzer Prize winners for nonfiction, Toulouse Orunipa and Robert Samuels. They wrote the book, His Name is George Floyd, One Man's Life and the Struggle for Racial Justice. And they're going to be in conversation with WBEZ's Southside reporter Natalie Moore, which we're really delighted to have them join us. Just following that presentation, that's going to be on the Joseph and Bessie Feinberg Foundation stage, is Curtis Sittenfeld. She's the writer of Romantic Comedy, which was like a Reese Witherspoon selection. It's getting a lot of fun attention, but she's going to be in conversation with WBEZ's Susie Ahn. Also super excited, kind of like a new addition to the festival is Jack Bender. You might know him as the director for Lost and Game of Thrones and The Sopranos, Mr. Mercedes. But he's an artist and storyteller and writer, and he has a children's book coming out this fall, which will also be available at the festival. And usually I don't think he'd be able to join us, but because of the writer's strike right now, he's got a little wiggle room in his schedule, so that's super, super exciting. On a more local level, we've got just some incredible writers like John Eig, who will be at the fest. He has a new book out right now. It's a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. It's called King a Life. It's an instant New York Times bestseller, and I think it's like the first biography of Martin Luther King Jr. in like 40 years. So that's going to be an incredible interview with him. We have a number of poets laureate. So we've got Avery R. Young, who is Chicago's inaugural poet laureate. We've got Angela Jackson, who was an Illinois poet laureate. And we have Nandi Kumar, who is Michigan's poet laureate. So they'll be they're going to do a reading and be in conversation with Parnisha Jones, who works with Northwestern University Press, who will have a table there as well. Rebecca Mackay will be there. She has a new book out entitled I Have Some Questions for You. That's a New York Times bestseller, and she'll be in conversation with Gina Frangello, who's just a remarkable writer. Anyway, I could go on and on. I recommend people take a look at our schedule, which is posted, and just kind of, just go through it, mark whatever, captures your attention. There's like 75 programs and over 200 presenters. So lots to choose from.
Totally. I know I mentioned this earlier, but to reiterate, you guys truly have something for everybody. For sure, yeah. Anybody coming to this festival can find something they are interested in. And I think that's what makes it so cool and interesting. And I'm curious, for you personally, is there an event or speaker that either you mentioned or haven't mentioned yet that you personally are most excited about?
Max, they are all my favorite. I have to say, I'm just so excited about each program. The sad thing for me is that I am stationed in author check-in and hospitality all weekend. So I miss all the programming. But in my head, it's just, it comes off perfectly, and everybody's just charming and brilliant. And but I'm also excited about a couple of podcasters that are coming in from out of town and out of country. Actually, there's just a wonderful poet podcaster named Patrick Otuma, and he has a podcast entitled On Being. And what he does on that podcast is he reads a poem, unpacks it, and then reads it again, and it just really illuminates the art and the brilliance of the poet's writing. And so he'll be at the festival interviewing Sharif Shanahan, who has a new book out right now. And so I think that format's gonna be kind of similar. Sharif's gonna read from his new book, and Patrick's gonna interview him. We also have Mitzi Rapkin, who has a podcast entitled First Draft, a dialogue on writing. And she's also just incredible. She has just so many notable authors on her show. You're a podcaster. It takes so much more work than people have any idea about. And so she's going to be interviewing Antoine Wilson at the festival, who was like Barack Obama's favorite novelist of 22. So that's going to be a really incredible interview. I think she's going to be recording it live too from the festival, which is exciting. I think that's the first time we've done that. And then we also have, I'm just thinking about it, Lindsay Hunter is a writer and podcaster, and she's going to be interviewing Jenna Friedman, who has a collection of essays out right now called Not Funny. And so Jenna is this really awesome comedian, feminist, political, just really smart and funny. And that's another one I'm really sad I'm going to miss. But that's going to be a really good conversation. I'm certain of it. Those are just a few more for you, Max.
So, Amy, what do you see for the future of the Printers Row Lit Fest?
I don't know. I love it the size it is. I feel like I'd be fine with it getting bigger and maybe having some some reach into other neighborhoods across the city to kind of bring pieces of the festival to people. But I just love also just its current iteration. I think it's there's so much for everyone, but it's also not too overwhelming, which I feel can kind of paralyze people sometimes, psychologically. So we'll see. But I mean, next year is going to be I think it's like the 40th anniversary of the fest. So this is the 38th annual, but we were interrupted with COVID for 1 year. So I'll be interested to talk with the higher ups to see what kinds of ideas they have for next year. But yeah.
So my last question for you is a question I love to ask each guest that comes on Chicago Business Radio. For you, what is your favorite thing that you get to do in regards to the Printers Row Lit Fest?
It's so funny, the grass is always greener, right? So when I was first exposed to the Lit Fest, a girlfriend that I had gone to school with, she had invited me, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is just so fantastic. And it was just such a wonderfully indulgent thing to just kind of go to the festival, listen to authors talk about their books and read from their books, and then maybe have a glass of wine at one of the restaurants, right on South Dearborn, and talk about what we had just heard, and then go listen to some more and browse some books. Like that was just such a treat. And then I was like, very interested in becoming involved. And so at one point I was invited to moderate a discussion, and that was super exciting. And then I moderated another conversation, and I've got a number of different hats that I wear in the literary world. So I've got some experience like coordinating events, like literary events, and participating in them. And so one thing led to the next, and now I'm in this role. And, this is kind of a dream job for me. Like I love so much about it. But there is also a part of me that kind of wishes, is nostalgic, very nostalgic for when the fest was new to me. And I kind of hope that for other people that they get to have that experience too.
So, Amy, the festival's coming up. If people want to learn more about it, do you guys have a website? And can you remind us of the dates and times of the actual festival?
Yes. So the website is, it's just printersrowlitfest.org. And the dates are Saturday, September 9 and Sunday, September 10 in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening. And that's also the same weekend as Taste of Chicago. So it could be a twofer for people. They can pop over to Taste of Chicago, get some good food, and then stop over at the Lit Fest and listen to some good conversations, or vice versa. So it should be a really exciting weekend.
Yeah, reading and eating. It's a perfect combo. It's a perfect weekend.
Books and food. Yes.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for being on Chicago Business Radio. It was awesome to talk to you. I mean, you guys are doing great work over at the fest, and I can't wait to stop by in, next week, I think, September 9th and 10th.
Yeah, a week and a half. Yeah.
So thanks again for being on the show today. It was great talking with you.
Really nice to be here. Thanks.
And thank you for listening to another episode of Chicago Business Radio. I'm your host, Max Cantor, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of Chicago Business Radio has been brought to you by FirmSpace, your private sanctuary for productivity and growth. To learn more, go to firmspace.com.